All right, glad to have you back. The International Monetary Fund has revised its economic forecast for Nigeria, projecting a slowdown in the country's growth for 2024. Well, according to the latest World Bank Economic Outlook report released on Tuesday this week, Nigeria's economy is now expected to grow at 2.9% in 2024, maintaining the same growth pace recorded in 2023. Now, the latest projection is 0.2 percentage points decrease from the previous projection in July and 0.4% decrease from the previous projection in April. This adjustment reflects the IMF's cautious stand on challenges facing emerging markets, including Nigeria. The international lender says, and I quote, "The revision reflects slower growth in Nigeria amidst weaker than expected activities in the first half of the year." The IMF also noted that the projected growth for 2025 stands at 3.2%, which is 0.2% higher than the projections made in July and April this year. Well, let me talk to my guest and bring him in. He's the Managing Director, Chief Executive Officer of Capital Plus Nigeria Limited, Dr. Oluwaseyi Odufuwa. First time on the program. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
It's good to have you here.
It's beautiful to be here too.
I think we should start with this IMF's figure. Right. And I know you've looked at it. You've seen that report. 2.9%, 2025, 3.2%. Do you think that is conservative enough, or how do we put it? How does it come to you?
Okay, so for the World Economic Outlook, basically three major things were looked at.
Okay.
Three major things were looked at for the World Economic point of view,
yeah.
Sub-Saharan point of view, and the Nigerian Economic Outlook too. So various discussions along the line.
Yeah.
But for the World Economic Outlook, the U.S. elections, it was a major discussion. The U.S. election will be the barometer for world economy in 2025. It will ignite new trade battles around the world because of the dollar as a mainstay for every trade. Climate change discussions too. For the U.S., U.S. has signed bilateral agreements with so many countries in the world. So if somebody like Donald Trump comes in, you know that so many of those agreements will be cancelled.
That's true.
Somebody like Kamala Harris comes in, you know that so many of those conversations will continue. Look at U.S. transactions with multilateral corporations too. It may change. Agreements may change if somebody like Donald Trump comes in. Another major one is the uncertainty over wars, around the world, the Middle East, the Maghreb region, and Europe too, Ukraine and Russia. That war, looking at price of oil, and also grains too.
Destruction, movement of goods and all of that, the Suez Canal and all of that.
Exactly. So those are part of the things they looked at. And the third one is the worry over China. That's the second largest economy in the world, and growth in China has slowed down very significantly. IMF is projecting a growth of about 4.5%, which is lower than the 5% for year 2024. So those three major indices was looked at the World Economic Forum. And for Nigeria,
yes, please.
As a micro economy, 2.9% projection, 2024. But you know that we surpassed it. Yes, we surpassed it. First quarter, 2.98%. Second quarter, that's the half year, about 3.19%.
Yes, 19. Okay, yeah,
that's
true.
3.2%.
That's true.
3.2%. So we surpassed the IMF projections.
That's true.
And IMF also projected 3.2% for year 2025. I want to tell you categorically that Nigeria will grow at a minimum of about 3.6%. That's my projection. At about 3.6.
3.6? I'm putting that down. We're going to talk about this again. No. I'm going to ask this question again. God keep us. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Look at the inflation trends. In September, inflation came down to about 33.8% thereabout due to the reduction in food inflation. And because food inflation covers about 40.1% of aggregate inflation, food inflation. So immediately those tariffs, government brought in new tariffs, reduced tariffs, and duties too. Immediately it was brought down. it affected food inflation and reduced inflation. But as we speak now, October inflationary trends has also risen again because of fluctuation in FX. So, but IMF is projecting 2025 inflationary trend to be 25%, which means that the programs and policies of government is working at 25%. And look at the report where also by 2029, IMF is projecting inflation to come down to 14%. That's the projection. So it means that, things are happening. It's just that Nigerians have not started feeling it. But we'll get to that level where we'll be out of the tunnel. 1
minute now. We have some live pictures from the flag off of the construction of Sokoto-Badagry Super Highway. Okay. That's about 120-kilometer section in Sokoto State.
Yes.
That is some live pictures. We'll continue with our Business Nigeria live on all our platforms. Yes. Thank you so much.
Allah ka saka musu da alkhairi akan aiwatar da wannan aikin. Ya Allah muna roƙonka ka taimaki sarkin musulmi.
All right, there. Thank you so much. Now let's stay with Nigeria and look at the ongoing reforms in our country.
Beautiful.
And what we've seen in recent times, many would say that the fallout is something that everyone is complaining about. So what do you make of those reforms? Are you also optimistic that moving forward, it will get better than this?
My brother, I'm fully optimistic that the Nigerian economy is growing. Growing at 3.2% is not bad at all, surpassing projections of about 2.9%. I also believe that we are not growing fast enough, because if you want to meet the $1 trillion economy by 2030, we should be growing at about 6% in my own postulations. And to grow at a pace of about 6%, every hands must be on deck. And I'll give you some of the things government needs to look at, which they are already doing, but they need to also rejig. Okay. We spoke about ministerial change, so that government can rejig and put bites into the economy. And Mr. President has listened. He has done something about it. In 1 year, 6 months thereabout, he has decided to change. He didn't even wait for 2 years, 3 years before he changed his cabinet. And he has made it very clear too that, I can change every 6 months if I have to. If you are not giving me results, once we look at your scorecard, we'll get you out of the system. And I believe that the new ministers that have been brought into the cabinet now will know that there's no
business as usual.
It's not business as usual. And the changes are quite good, and we know that new plans and policies will come on board. And the second one, look at our oil production. Oil production at about 1.4 million barrels a day. The NU RPC, NDPRC that happened about 2 days ago.
Yes, they want to improve.
They have a projection of about 1 million barrels more a day, which will take us to about 2.4 million barrels. But let's stick to just 2 million barrels. OPEC quota, for daily production. You can imagine if we produce up to 2 million barrels a day, Nigeria will have FX to solve economic issues to the tune of over $1 billion on a monthly basis. Yes. So look at production. Add 600,000 more. What does it take us to add it? Better infrastructure, more focused NNPC, and insecurity. Once we can solve that, then we'll know that, yes, we can increase. Look at inflationary trends too. IMF is projecting a reduced inflation to about 25%. If we tackle inflation, it helps to grow GDP more. Look at another economy, which is the agric economy. About 16.8% of GDP is agric exports as we speak. And so Nigeria has food insecurity, a lot of gap that is there, 100 million below poverty line, or even more, according to statistics. So our agric plan must be robust enough for us to feed ourselves and have extra for export. And that's my belief. And so what do we need to do? We have unique regions in Nigeria. The North produces about 60 to 68% of our food consumption. That's the North. And insecurity too is also going to be tied to that sector. Because of insecurity, nobody can go to the farms. If you want to go to the farm, I even hear that you pay royalties for you to go and farm.
Truly.
And if you don't farm for this economic year, you can't harvest in the following year. And that's the cycle. And so what do we need to do? Our governors too must become very ingenious to be able to feed their own people. Agric business is no more mechanized as it used to be. You know, technology now is so much in agric business. Do you know that as we speak now, you can plant your vegetables to harvest in 3 weeks on water alone, without soil? So with the expanse of land that is filtered around the southwest, what are the governors doing? You know, where you want to plant rice, you know, the soil is there, we have good and productive distant components, but how many of them have been ingenious enough to be able to look at that so that we can grow in the agriculture? And that's a sector that can employ over 2 million, you know, Nigerians within the next 6 months if we get our master plan right. I heard you speaking about electricity.
Yes, yes.
That's another sector.
Key.
That's another sector that is key to economic growth.
Yes.
There's no nation in the world that has grown today that will not take electricity as number one. Look at the service sector. It contributes about 58% to GDP. And because of that, all MSMEs are in the service sector. You can imagine a welder who is connected to national grid, who can work during the day, employ 2 or 3 more.
Yes.
In the evening, he's tired, he goes to rest, while he has grown GDP by spending.
Yeah.
You understand? But that same welder who depends on diesel at about 1,200 or more can't even work. That's a component for insecurity. If people go to him to say, I have a deal for you to do so and so, it's very easy to initiate those kind of people. And so electricity is also a bane that we need to look out for. And if we can solve our electric problems from about 5,000 megawatts to even about 20, I heard somebody saying about we need 100,000 megawatts. I tell you, if Nigeria can move up from 5 to 20 at least in the next 2 years, you will see the growth in GDP, because it will free a lot of spending. And once an economy spends, you know, once spending is not slow, you will grow GDP. And that's what we are talking about. But the electricity sector is so decayed that I tell you we need a 20-year plan. Because, you know, the problem did not start from now. 30, 40 years ago, infrastructure is still what we are. Infrastructure for 50 million people is for, you know, being used by over 220 million people as we speak. So it cannot work. Another one that I feel that will happen at the end of the day is the rebasing of the economy. Yes. Yeah, we believe that MBS is looking at it. And I think that the last time we rebased was about 10 years ago, 2014, Jonathan's period. I believe strongly that MBS is taking into cognizance an economy of $253 billion. If we rebase, definitely it's going to be more. Look at BRICS nations. Report says that about 189% increase from about $400 million inflow. That's capital imports now. About $400 million to about 1.2 billion half year into the Nigerian economy. So it shows that the government's policies are not that bad. It's just that the reflection on the lives of Nigerians is not visible at the moment. But if there's more time, you can look at what we feel that the government needs to do so that the plight of Nigerians can...
It's very important we look at that, and we'll look at that, yes. Just like you talked about electricity, and what came to me was Mr. Tony Elumelu, at every event I've been able to meet him, he's always starting with that line that no country can survive without having electricity.
You cannot.
And really, that is the truth. Now, 2 questions in one for you. IMF is saying that countries with high inflation continue to tighten monetary policy.
Yes.
And tightening monetary policy, we all know that it will affect interest rates. That is what many are talking about. I'd like you to speak around that. Then we now move on to what are those things you think government can do that will really make Nigerians see that, oh, fine, we are tightening our belts, but we know that something is coming. We are aiming for something, and it will be so clear to them.
Okay, so for tightening the belt, it's an economic policy that IMF will always sell to project. It's a capitalist institution, and we must understand that. But the irony is that we cannot deviate fully from IMF and World Bank.
Yeah.
Because of our indebtedness too. It's high. And the cost of funding the cost of servicing this debt is also very, very high. And that's the problem. So for me, the borrowings are not our problem because we have not yet gotten to the benchmark of about 60%. But the problem is to the revenue side to fund these high interest rates. And so for tightening, I know that our next MPC meeting, that's the monetary policy meeting, should happen, I think, in November or so.
Yes, November.
Good.
November.
And then if you look at the CBN, they have increased rates 4 times this year.
Yes.
Consistently. And they had to do it to fight inflation and to have more effects in the pool. Some people would say that it is it's hot money, you know, because these are long-term government policies. These are very short-term government policies. But like I said, everybody wants to turn Nigeria into a destination. IMF loves it. World Bank loves it. The Paris Club, they love it because they can come there, just fix their funds, and they get so much out of the economy. But the downside is that it's not. It's also killing the economy. I believe that the next MPC meeting, they might decide to retain rates.
I hope so.
But I hope so too, and not increase rates. So if they retain rates, but the other side is the capital market too, where it's a market that in the first 2 months of this year, growth or gains, capital gains was about 35%. But after that, if you notice that once rates, monetary policy rate started going up, you know, the capital market indices started dropping as well. Because it's the same investors that operate within these 2 markets. And so once the capital market is down, you know that you see that the money market is going up, fixed income. Once fixed income begins to crash, investors rush into the capital market. But it's a win-win situation as we speak, because I believe strongly that the prices of shares right now has dropped significantly, and it's a time to buy. The banking sector, fast consumer goods sector too. People should look at it. Investors should look at it, because I believe that. Look at banks now. Banks are recapitalizing.
Yes.
About 6 banks raised over 1.4 trillion in the last 2 months or 3 months thereabout, and more are still coming into the fray. So it means that our banking sector will become more standardized, will become more healthy in terms of total assets, you know. And so if they become more healthy, it means that, you know, investors should expect better corporate earnings. And so if you buy cheap now, you will definitely enjoy capital appreciation or dividend growth or bonuses at the end of the day. So for the Nigerian economy, we believe strongly that it's a growing economy. Government is on the right path. But what I will advise government to look at to ameliorate the problems of Nigerians presently as we speak, if you say you want to tighten, let's maintain MPC rate first in the next MPC meeting. Let's address the direct problems of Nigerians. And what are the direct problems? Food security is very, very important. I said in a forum that what I would have done differently a little bit from what government has done, because the 2 major blows was total removal of subsidy and floating of the naira at the same time, which was, you know, double blow. So what I would have done differently was to, first of all, create cushions first in terms of the other forms of subsidy. Every economy in the world, you know, provides subsidy for their citizenry, and that's the difference. So healthcare subsidy, for instance, mother and child, drugs for patients. I'm talking of mother and child care, healthcare subsidy. Every government hospital, every government clinic, every government mother and child clinic around the whole nation. It's in every local government, if I may say, you know, subsidized at that level. Transport subsidy. CGM buses are coming in, but we are not seeing the effect at all because though government's policy, that's why I said there's a difference between policies and reality. Government policy says that every transport vehicle that is commercial, go and fix your CNG kits for free and buy gas at 200 naira per cubic meter. You understand? So that's a form of subsidy too, but how many of those buses are on the roads as we speak? So there's a difference between pronouncing these policies and implementation. So government must look at the implementation side and, you know, let these ministers give account to what they are doing. Now, let's transit to state governors. because we cannot continue to blame federal government on all. For state governors too, every state in Nigeria within the last 1 year has received a minimum of about 40 to 50% increase in federal allocation. So your state, as a citizen, what is your governor doing with the funds? Now, government has done something else. Government has also given us autonomy. In the last 40 years, no president had the balls to be able to do it. President Tinubu was able to give us local government autonomy. You know, Supreme Court verdict, and that's final. And so, as we speak now, how well are you holding your local government chairman accountable? You know, how well? I was telling somebody today that I think there was a rain that caused heavy flood, maybe last week or so, 2 weeks ago. I saw that the entire street was flooded where I live. And, you know, they called the local government chairman. The same day, they came, evacuated the blockages, and everybody was fine. You know, that is governance at your doorstep. And that's what we are talking about that. How well do we hold these people accountable? Every time we concentrate more on the federal side, which is not bad for Nigerians. So, but government should tackle food insecurity headlong. Whatever it takes, what we take to for us to achieve it, even if we have to import at a great deal, we need to do it. Try to work on insecurity for planting so that we can have yields. And it is those yields, when a man feeds, it's 50% calm. True. And you know, it's a big problem that government needs to look at before, you know, these plans and policies begin to yield results.
I must thank you so much. It's an interesting conversation, Dr. Oluwaseyi Odufuwa, and we hope to have you in again soon, you know, to speak about issues around the economy. Managing Director, Chief Executive Officer of Capital Plus Nigeria Limited. Do enjoy the rest of your day. We appreciate this.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much.